Hello and welcome. We are so grateful to have you joining us today. I am your host, Sarah Strizzi. I have a huge passion for helping people to release, elevate, and shine through my intuitive gifts and energy healing. My guest today is fellow intuitive healer who has honed his gifts in beautiful ways to truly create next level healing and expansion in his own life and in the lives of his clients. John, welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm so well. Thank you so much, Sarah, for inviting me. I'm so happy. And also I want to say a big hello and hi to everybody, all of your guests joining the live stream and the show afterwards will be on replay. I'm just so happy to be here. It's great. Thank you.
So good. So good. I really appreciate connected with like-minded individuals on this mission to help our fellow people here to really get into depths of more understanding of who they are and how they can be more successful here in their lives. And I know that you are creating massive transformation in the lives of many.
Absolutely. Sarah, could we just have a moment, please? I have something prepared just to kind of let's get into this kind of feeling space.
Absolutely.
Just
I would love that.
prepared and a few props. Okay, I'm just going to get up and we'll kind of start. Just for a minute, 1 minute. Thank you. Just to note, may God save every one of their children, redeem them into love and truth and happiness.
Oh, beautiful, John. Thank you. That's such a nice tone for our conversation today.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So, John, please share with us a bit about yourself and your journey and what has led you to where you are today. I know that's a big question, but just I know we've connected last week and you have a beautiful story and a unique story. And I would love for our audience to learn more about that.
Of course. I think this really kind of maps onto everyone's experience. Let me just have a drink. It's about change, really. And the question really is what kind of allows people to desire change. Generally, it's when the level of fear in their life exceeds the level of pain in their life exceeds the amount of fear in terms of their resistance to change. So my personal story, I had a kind of let's call it an interlude in my life that kind of didn't work out, and I was in a kind of lot of turmoil emotionally, and so the level of pain that I was in exceeded the amount of fear I was within me resisting change. You see, and I think this is the same for everybody. Everyone's resisting change based on their justifications not to. So that was a big change in my life. You can call it an awakening. Okay, people need to wake up because things aren't working for them, and the level of pain they're enduring becomes too significant for them to manage. So they have to kind of, think about, okay, well, this isn't working out, and I'm basically forced to change. Sometimes we're in situations where we don't want to. We create all these justifications not to move ahead, and so until let's call it the laws of the universe are forcing upon us change, that we kind of have to capitulate, and then we're actually forced to move ahead for our own good, basically.
Oh,
when things aren't actually creating and growing between ourselves in a relational terms perspective, there are forces at play that are actually trying to destroy the fabric of the relationship that we're kind of trying to create, which isn't loving it in its kind of in essence. So these forces are happening around us all the time. So therefore, this is 2011. I came out of long-term, let's call it a marriage, and I discovered Reiki. I was kind of looking around. I was in a lot of kind of emotional turmoil, and I was looking for something. I was looking for answers, like most people looking for answers. Most people are kind of very confused about, who to go to. I was looking for this magic bullet, for someone to kind of help them and take away their issues for them, really. And I was on that kind of, asking questions: what shall I do, and how shall I do this? And I was in a kind of emotional shock, really. So Reiki was my kind of first kind of segue into something completely different, because before that I was 25 years in IT, and it was very mind-based and completely opposite to kind of basically where I'm at now, pretty much. So Reiki kind of gave me the idea, okay, there's something else besides taking a tablet. There's something beyond the kind of physical that was kind of at play, really, that's kind of orchestrating things in the background. So therefore I took level 1 to practitioner, then on to masters, and I was in my practice I was kind of helping people, but there was an issue, because the people with having the issue that were coming to me basically were returning with the same issues. So that that led me to thinking, well, okay, there's something a bit deeper going on here. Maybe there's something else. And one thing leads to another, and as you do normally when you go, you start searching, sooner or later when you ask questions, the answer will materialize. So therefore I went online. I was looking on YouTube and came across Dr. Brad's work and discovered the emotion code in 2013, certified in 14. I was quite interested. It was really interesting, kind of different. I was integrating in my practice, and it was the missing key, the missing component. It really was. It was kind of this extra level of depth, which the Reiki, that was really a self-healing modality, all told, it really wasn't kind of reaching. So this was quite a powerful revelation for me. Okay, it was a sequence of events, starting from the Reiki, this kind of awakening to, what can I do to help myself, and therefore, onto helping other people. So therefore, obviously, the body code is kind of intrinsically linked to the emotion code. It's like, part and parcel of, Dr. Brad's kind of thing, really. And so certified in back end of, I think it was 2015, Christmas time, around about then. But then I, quickly discovered something called the three-dimensional therapy, the T3 method, which really intrigued me, because if you look at the original Body Code 2.0, it's really a kind of very small component part of what was the older kind of mind mapping system, Body Code 2.0. But I thought, okay, well, I paid for the Body Code system. It's got to be part of, I paid a good amount of money here, but it wasn't. And so therefore I learned about, Gwen and Leilani. They were, former students of Dr. Brad. So they, were students of Dr. Brad in 1999. And they started looking, in their workshops with Dr. Brad. Gwen started out with heart walls. And so she was clearing heart walls, and she was discovering that, clearing people's heart walls, these walls were energetic defense mechanisms were reconstructing themselves. This kind of like, to prevent people from, this totality of heartache, we kind of build our defense between, we insulate ourselves from further heartache or heartbreak. So this is interesting. So, I mean, she made a big breakthrough in her own health, because she had osteoarthritis, I think it was, and that was helping. The magnetic therapy was helping to a degree. But so she had a background in counselling, so she was kind of intrigued, really. What else could be at play here? So one of her associates suggested it could be a limiting belief. Okay, so limiting belief is a kind of, again, it's another kind of a structure level lower. You can think of it as the emotion code, or even the body code. The body code is more kind of, I think, more body centric. The emotion code is kind of like, I think, Dr. Brad at the moment, he's got having the understanding. The emotion code principle, the method, is more about layers. Okay, it's more about layers than actual emotion bubbles or code. The emotions themselves, a bubble of energy. We're kind of taking off the layers, going back to the causal events, the injuries, traumas. I discovered three-dimensional therapy. It was very, very interesting, because I loved it, because it integrated very kind of nicely with the emotion code and body code. It's very much of a kind of a kind of follow on from all that study and training. So I took a year. I took a year out to look at the material. Actually, more than a year, because it was quite difficult. I couldn't. You see, the jump between the body code and the emotion code to three-dimensional therapy is quite significant, because what they teach you is to kind of let go of your expectations. Now, I don't know if you know, but in terms of getting the results, if you try to try and predict the results, generally you're going to end up kind of, the results are going to be as not as good an end result as if you kind of don't have any anticipation about what it might be in terms of the result. You have to have the thing called faith. You say faith is something outside you, kind of helping you, guiding you, that's beyond you, that is orchestrating things in the background. So this is when, so three-dimensional therapy helps this is the training course, which is now unfortunately not available because it's been, you obviously know the intellectual copyrights have been taken over by Dr. Brown. It's being reworked into something called the belief code. So anyway, so when I learned, I had the study course, and I was trying to learn basically to reimagine or learn my gifts. So what they do is they help you to learn your psychic gifts. So, for example, mine is seeing, clairvoyance, and knowing, claircognizance. So I kind of have those abilities. I'm working with people. And the reason why that is because it allows us to go with a client at a deeper emotional level, more than kind of on a surface level. We can get it. And three-dimensional therapy is likened to emotional surgery. That's what they call it. Because it goes so deep. It's basically so what we call core belief therapy. Now, core belief therapy, if you look at the definition, it says that core beliefs are a person's most central ideas about themselves, others, and the world. These beliefs act like a lens through which every situation and life experience is seen. Okay. So what is it? Really, it's a feeling. Basically, what we are fundamentally is a feeling. We are really just light beings. We are just emotion, just really feeling. We're based on our kind of experiences, beliefs, our kind of memories, our desires, intentions. This is what we fundamentally are. We're not the physical. We're not even this extrapolated layer between and what I call the soul and the physical body. There's another layer called the spirit body. A lot of modalities actually are kind of working on that level and not at a deeper causal level to make any permanent fundamental changes. So what I like about three-dimensional therapy is there's a huge amount of flexibility in the modality. If you compare that with a body code, you've got it's a mind mapping system, and it's a number of pages. That kind of a level, depth of, you can granular. You can dig down into kind of finding imbalances, etc. Due to a systematic cause, for example. But it's a really finite system. I think the new system is over 1,000 mind mapping pages or something like that. You can liken it to body code will be, for example, painting by numbers. Okay, you've got a canvas, an all canvas, and you've got the numbers. You might have had it when you're growing up, painting by the numbers thing. But in three-dimensional therapy terms, what we're doing, think of an all canvas, and you have an oil painting, and there's a fluidity and be able to paint the picture in any kind of fashion you see that's very unique to you. So there's very much of uniqueness about you that is not completely transcribable or translatable from the body code system or the emotion code, really fundamentally. There's a dynamics beyond that system, and another thing I started to understand. So anyway, then I took the course to qualified in 2018, okay, which is cool. That took another year, but it's well worth it. And what I understood was quite quickly there's a very much of an opportunity to integrate three-dimensional therapy to what I call universal truth. Okay, and this is a very, very, very important point to understand. So we go through life understanding, having an experience, and we have perceptions, and we believe what we believe, what we've been told, what we've been experienced. So for example, we've got 7.5 billion people on planet Earth currently. in estimate, and every single one of us is looking at life from a different perspective through their own kind of filters, their perceptual filters. Okay, now without getting too complicated, every one of us is actually what I call basically what I call perfect in love. We're perfect in love, just the point before conception. Okay, well, you think about it, before that point, we were perfect in what we call natural love. We weren't damaged. Okay, and just after that point, mom and dad, holding these injuries, emotional injuries, they impress those injuries on us. Okay, we're pretty much defenseless until the age of around about 5 to 7 to understand about the difference in terms of ethics and morals. To understand we have a unique identity of I am. We can choose in terms of emotional responsibility what is right and wrong. We're just unfiltered. Okay, as a newborn child. So those unresolved emotions from mom and dad get impressed on the new child. Okay, then defenses to kind of defend against the absorption of these injuries. So, okay, it's helpful to think of this in terms of an egg. I like to use the egg analogy. So, that in the egg you have the yolk. Think of that as our true self, that's undamaged, pure love. Okay, pure love. Okay, on the outside of that, these are the injuries we absorb, from environment, intergenerational belief systems, mom and dad through mom's emotional filters. Okay, that is, you can think of it as the white around the yolk. Okay, that's the injury. And on the outs, so every time we sustained an injury, okay, trauma, and we weren't allowed to fully express it and feel through it, and by virtue of that, release it. We hold on to it, okay, and the only reason why we're holding on to it is a justification that we need to hold on to it for some reason. That our caregivers, mother and father, whatever, their justifications not to allow us to feel or impressed their unlovingness towards us made us feel through shame and guilt we were responsible for those unloving actions towards us. So it's every time any unloving action, any unloving action was kind of directed at us, we were injured in love.
There's so much of that going on.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Think of us like a beautiful light. We are really light beings, okay? And think of us kind of all this muck and gut getting stuck to us and diminishing our life force. Okay. So that's the white. That's the injuries. Now, so every time we were injured in love, at that moment, the basis of an addiction was created. And a basis of an addiction is always created. Why is that? Because we always fall back through our justifications. I don't want to feel this, because the feeling that was impressed in me, that I was responsible for the unlovingness that was impressed in me. Mom and dad, you deserve this. I hate you. I feel bad. So my justification means I hold on to the hurt. We treat our mother and father like gods, right? They can't do any wrong. As children, we don't filter anything from good or bad. Everything is love, right? We have a distortion in love, and this is the problem. So every time we were injured, this addiction occurs, this justification not to feel the hurt, because we were bad. We feel bad. We feel we were bad, so we can't feel it, and we hold on to it because we feel it was justified. And this is when we create a lie. So the justification to hold on to the hurt is the lie. We're telling ourselves over and over again. So, for example, age 1, something happened, an event or sequence of events up until age 1, that was kind of comparable, compatible. We carry these events, this unlovingness, these lies with us, constantly with us to current day. They're living with us internally in a kind of a fractured psychological self, emotionally, in a feeling state. So that you can think of the lies, okay, as being the shell of the egg. The lies, the shell of the egg. These are the lies, the justifications we tell ourselves to help that we feel, so that we don't become re-traumatized. We don't touch the hurt. We don't feel justified to go back there because it's hurtful to realize the truth that mom and dad really weren't loving to us. We don't want to do that. We don't want to hurt mom and dad. We feel they were gods, before when we were children, they couldn't do any harm to us. But as adults, we still carry this false representation of the facts, the events that we're loving. So when I work with people, right, quite quickly we discover, they say their childhood was great or whatever, normal. We quite quickly discover it was far from normal. So the facade, the egg, the shell of the egg, it's called the facade, the false self. So, for example, like, you get up in the morning, you wear a mask, and you put a mask, and this is what we're doing. We're meeting other people's expectations. If I do this, you'll love me, and you'll love me. If you love me, I'll do this for you, right? We're serving our addictions to avoid the hurt within us. We're trying to escape the hurt constantly. The only way, and the other issue becomes, we're living in this universe, okay? We're living in a spiritual universe with laws and principles. You can call it God's universe, constructed to help us to grow in love. So, moment by moment, the law of attraction, right, is bringing events to us to challenge these unloving feelings we're holding inside us that we feel justified to hold on to, because we don't want to go back to the situation and call mom and dad less than loving. The Jesuits had an expression. They said, give me the boy and I'll show you the man. You see, this is very ancient knowledge. They knew, you see, up until the age of 5 to 7, this is when the person's, their belief systems are kind of formulating, and if you show a child love, that really sets their whole endeavor for the whole life to be kind of set for life. The man, self-actualized, independent, strong, loving, caring, compassionate, ethical, moral. If a child who is shown unlovingness has deficits in love. Now the problem is, because we're disconnected from that state of realization, let's call it an awakening, to the things that are causing our life dysfunction, we go through life coping, trying to cope with different coping mechanisms. So we all engage things like, meditation, CBT, we'll do all these type of things, trying in an attempt to avoid resolving anything fundamentally. We're talking about the levels, keep going down and down. Really, the only way out is through. The only way out is through.
Oh, that's profound.
Yeah. The going back to the modality in three-dimensional therapy, universal truth. What is universal truth compared to personal truth? So it stands to reason, if we're living in a framework, an environment, a universe, spiritual universe, there'd have to be certain constants. We can't just have anarchy, and everyone making it up, and everyone having their own version of personal truth, like in the New Age doctrines or movements or kind of paths. Everyone's got their own personal truth. It's everyone's okay. You can make it up, I'll make it up, we'll agree to agree and whatever. But really, there's one framework of absolute truth that is a reference point to how everyone's feeling. Everyone is feeling the same feelings. It's kind of important, quite a revelation for people to understand and know that. But in terms of our personal truth, that is where we differ from the truth. Okay. And that's what these laws in the universe are helping us to move into. Back to love. Now, so what I did with three-dimensional therapy, the two pioneers of this method, Gwen and Lilani, who incidentally cured her macular degeneration using the T3 method, which is fantastic. They wanted the students to take it to the next level. Okay. And so I'd started actually looking at something called Divine Truth since 2013. Now, this is all about prayer and connecting with God. So why would you want to do that? Well, so prayer is a way of actually connecting with God and receiving communication from God on an emotional level. So another interesting, I'll say some universal truths here. So God is actually our true parents, mother and father. We are all children of God. God is giving us ability to connect with them through prayer, to receive information and awareness about ourselves and the universe, and how to actually learn in love and truth. Okay, so I started doing that. I started watching material. There's a channel called divinetruth.com, which is fascinating, and I put this into practice. So it's not so I discovered quite quickly it's not really doing all the emotional work. It's about putting into your life the principal understanding of what is love, loving actions. Now, a lot of people are doing things they think are loving, but they're not. And they're doing things that they think are not loving, but which actually are loving. Based on the fact they were injured in love at childhood specifically. And all the three-dimensional therapy work I do actually kind of goes back into childhood, because that's where, as I mentioned, between 5 to 7, up to that point, the sense of I am, or understanding of what is emotionally responsibly accurate in love, we can't determine right from wrong, basically. So this thing is very important about truth. There's an expression: the truth will set you free. The truth will set you free, but there's a caveat. The truth will set you free eventually, but it's also when you're prepared to want to use it and integrate it into your understanding. Firstly, on an intellectual level, first you have to understand my life is not working out. Okay, there's a path to dealing with things and getting over things, getting through things. The second thing is looking at our addictions. Now, I do know now T3 therapy is a method, and I integrate things outside the method because I've learned you can do things that much accelerate the whole process. I want for my clients, I tell them quite quickly, I want you to become more loving in truth as soon and faster as possible. The body responds to love. All these things we're trying to manage, these symptoms in the body, the expression of not out of alignment in love, very quickly resolve themselves in a combined fashion when you move back into love, resolving the trauma from childhood. What we're really doing in three-dimensional therapy is we are resolving these justifications. We are telling ourselves we don't want to feel hurt. Call them blocks. The blocks to feeling. Nobody can actually help somebody deal with their own feelings, these emotions. It's on a causal fundamental level. We can help them get near, but at the end of the day, everyone's journey is unique. And the reason why this is because this experience of actually going through the emotion that they're holding in childhood helps the person learn and become wise, in so much as they won't repeat the same mistake or propagate it to their children or other people in their life. They become more loving on a heart level. They can, without thinking, it's feeling. Yes. We want to become more like children. We don't want to start. We want to become a being and not a doing. You see, we want to start thinking more in terms of feeling and not intellectualizing everything. As an example, people generally start writing lists to determine, okay, if this goes wrong, there's a backup list. We're obsessed in kind of determining what might happen next. When you start moving back into love, it's very interesting that a lot of synchronicity happens. Everything happens for the right reason at the right time for the right purpose in your life. This is what it should be like. We don't want to keep trying to work everything out. We want to become reliant on our feelings and not our thoughts. And this is a transition. If you look at children, are they worried about the next meal, where that's coming from? Children, they go out and they play, and the day lasts forever, the night, the evening. Mum's calling them in at 10 o'clock, where are you? Come back home. Actually, when we have more injuries, time slows down for us. It's interesting to know time slows down. We have less ability to connect to time in the moment.
Oh, that's
So we're actually using less. And that information came to me today, interestingly enough, from my guides.
interesting. Great. Oh, so I'm hearing a feedback. Can you fix your microphone then?
Yeah, sure. How's that?
Thank you. Oh, I still hear it. I'm not sure.
Let me turn the microphone down. How's that?
Let me see. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you, John.
Okay.
So,
Turn the
perfect segue into introducing us to your guide. So, tell us a little bit about that. I'm very intrigued in channeling and receiving that connection with higher frequency beings, and it's just so beautiful that you have that open channel to your guides. So introduce our audience today to your guides and how you met and what type of mission do you work on together?
Sure. I've been with a guide called Angelica. So let me help you understand. There are two types of guides. So everyone has guides. What is a guide? So these are helpers from nominated to us in the spirit world that are with us. I liken it to time sharing. You go on the holiday and you have a timeshare. They're not only just our guides, they multitask between other people as well. Okay. But we have guides. Why? So they're there to help us communicate with us on some level. If we can kind of do that, make that connection more substantial, much better for the good. They're there to help us. They're more developed in love and truth. They're there to help us, to guide us. They're our guides, our spirit guides. We have one guardian angel with us on the planet, just our physical experience. But we have generally two or more spirit guides, roughly about 2 or 3. They're developed in more developed in love and truth. Now, if you are interested in more kind of doing like intellectual things, intellectualized pursuits, it's all about your desire, you see. Okay. Everything's about your desires in life. So if you have a desire that those kind of intellectual pursuits, you'll attract what we call a natural love guide. So natural love, what is natural love? There's 2 types of love. Okay. There's natural love, which is the love we can create and develop within ourselves, and we can express between ourselves, the love between ourselves. There's another love called divine love. Now, you might have heard this divine spark thing, but we don't have a divine spark in us. We are creations in the image of God. We can absorb God's substance to become at one-ment with God, for example. But there is divine love we can receive from God through prayer. So these are beings. So beings in the spirit world who have developed this in the Bible. You might have in the first century Jesus reaches a one-ment stage with God. So these are all spirits that generally in the spirit world, they receive enough divine love to transition, to change their form, to transform themselves into a divine being. Okay, and these are what we call the celestial realms, the kingdoms of God's kingdoms, right? So we have the kingdom of God, man, the kingdom of God, natural love, and then divine love being angels, if you want to call them angels. So about 6 months ago, only quite recently, actually probably not a bit longer than that, I had a big moment. I started with prayer. I really found and woke up to the fact that prayer was really working for me. It was really making my life turn around, and I knew from a feeling level I was connecting with something quite powerful, God. So with that feeling, I attracted a divine love guide because I wanted to work through my emotions. Okay, if you want to work through things intellectually, I want to work out my emotions. Okay, what's it all about? I need to work with my mind. Okay, if you're doing the emotional stuff, you're going to attract a divine love guide. Okay, so it's very powerful to have a divine love guide to help me. In fact, I've got 3. I'll introduce the other 2 in a minute. Because they are this at one stage with God, they understand about this universal truth I was talking about, God's laws and principles. They're one with God's love. They don't know everything about truth because the progression of truth and understanding is infinite. Because the qualities of love and truth are actually infinite. Love and truth actually are different sides of the same coin. You can't have love without truth. They're kind of they're kind of combined. So yeah, so Angelica is a divine. She lived in the 11th century, kind of in this country. So she is in the 12th sphere of the celestial realms, or the fifth sphere, fifth sphere of the celestial realms, or the 12th sphere, the whole thing. I can go into the details of the secrets of the universe if you like me to, but and then there's another one. This is only recently, Derek and Amanda. They're actually what we call soulmates. Okay, they're soulmate couple. So this is another thing about soulmates we can go into. But anyway, so I attracted these. I was interested in soulmates as well, right? I'm interested in how to bring people together. So in union, which makes sense. A lot of people going through, finding relationships that aren't working out. We're like in a room that's a darkened room. We're fumbling for the light switch, going from one relationship to another, not really working through the emotional issues that led us to kind of finding this next person. And so they're helping me in that respect, working on the intergender, masculine and feminine injuries while I work with my clients so they can help this potentiality of meeting their soulmate.
Beautiful.
Very, very, very powerful.
Very
it's
powerful.
it's about integrate. See, any modality can be integrated with God's laws, and it can be super powerful. It's a difference between personal truth and universal truth. Dr. Brad, he came from a Mormon Latter-day Saint background. Okay, the modality body code was actually extrapolated from a natural love guide in the spirit world, not in the divine realms. There was a gap in the information about understanding about God's laws. You see, and I'm able to kind of plug that with divine wisdom. I actually extrapolate from my guides. So in a session, okay, for example, I'm working with you. You will have your guides, okay, and I've got my guides. It's either Angelica or Amanda or Derek, right? We'll work in a kind of in a circle between you, your guides, my divine guides, and myself, and there'll be a psychic link between us. It's a kind of very kind of a deep connection, sacred connection we're making.
Does that
Very powerful.
Does that information come through auditory or telepathically or through feeling? Can you explain that?
Yeah, it comes through a multiple level, different levels. Generally, comes in. I just know things, and seeing and knowing things.
Okay.
Almost like automatic handwriting. Sometimes you writing. Okay, I can in real time. I can in real time kind of communicate with them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can
great.
do that as well. But it's not hearing. It's feeling. It's all feeling. You see.
Yes.
It's all feeling. And that is super powerful, and it's really taken everything. Like for example, I work people one session, and it's like cleared the whole life in one go. It's like, well, let's do it.
Yes, when you have that connection to the divine love guides and to the greater realms, there's more of this universal knowledge of what's going on, and it really helps to have that extra layer of information so that you can drill into the core, the root of the issue of someone's experiencing. So I just think that's so amazing that you have that skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to align. It's helpful to know what is universal truth, to align their emotional error. So it's all about emotional error in the person back to truth.
Yes.
That's all three-dimensional therapy is doing. Now, how do we do that? It's an intuitive process. The T3 method identifies what we call erroneous beliefs, our false beliefs.
That's huge. And that's really the basis of our error is these false beliefs. And I really love that you've had the chance to become T3 certified while it was still available. I'm waiting for the belief code to come out, and I'm really hoping that Dr. Bradley is able to capture the essence of the three-dimensional therapy and its in alignment with its message. I'm really excited because I do notice that in my work that there is that next layer that I'm trying to tap into intuitively to get to the limiting beliefs of my clients. And once you do, wow, can you really start to rewrite the story and redirect the focus and heal that person and really bring them back to that divine love. It is so powerful.
My site is called T3 Therapy. Okay. Why did I choose number 3? Well, there's 2 reasons. All you need in your progression, that you'll need in your infinite progression in love and truth, and really what this whole session is, what my message to everybody and your listeners is about happiness. That is all it's about. We want to use time efficiently to become as happy in as shorter as amount of time as possible. That's what all the laws are trying to impress us on us all the while, to move us back into love as quickly as we want to. We can spend as much time in pain and suffering as we want, or we can choose to wake up and then move to something that is more loving. It's about the choice, really. So the number 3.
It's so interesting. So listen to this. I'm going to be really re-listening to this interview over and over again, because there's so many golden nuggets here. And John, you're a pleasure to talk with and to learn from. And I'm really just grateful for our connection. It's so simple. If you listen to this, you guys, it's healing our hearts. It's coming back to love. It is really tapping into that divine truth, which brings us back to that divine love, which is who we are at the core. We, of course, have our human form and we have this density here. And it's actually a really blessing to be walking here on this planet. We had to focus our soul energy into this body. It's all a miraculous situation. And we're all here as a collective to help guide and support each other to the best, back to divine love and light. And so John and I are both on a major mission to help people be happy and to help release the layers of trauma, clear the addictions so that we can choose happiness more effortlessly and easily. So John, you have a book in development. Can you tell us a little bit about your book that you're creating?
Yeah, I have a draft title. It's simply Truth, the Secret to Happiness.
Love it.
I'll give you a bit of a kind of like a thing. All we need is these 3 things in life: love, to feel we love, to some degree we are loved. We can love ourselves. Love, truth, and just to feel our emotions. That's all we need in our infinite progression. The number 3 also in the spirit world, right? I don't know if you know that in the spirit world, there's boundaries of, they call them spheres, right? They're separated by interstellar boundaries of love. In the 3rd sphere, everyone is in truth. That's why my site's called T3, Truth. The truth will set you free. And it certainly does.
Love it. Liberates you. So much. What was that, John?
It liberates you. It liberates your life. You can live.
It absolutely does.
You can live. Enjoy life.
I love that so much. Well, you guys, we have a lot of viewers on. I see your comments. Thank you so much for joining us on this interview today. I will definitely be having more conversations with John. He is such a light in this world. So thank you, John, for stepping into your purpose and in your mission and healing yourself so that you can show up for others. Any last words you would like to share with the viewers today?
I'd love to. Can I say a prayer for everybody to hear?
Yes, please do.
It involves a universal divine truth and love. It won't say, okay. My Father, who is in heaven, I recognize that you are all holy and loving and merciful, and that I am your child, and not the subservient, sinful, and depraved creature that false teachers would have me believe. I know that I'm the greatest of your creations, and the most wonderful of all your handiworks, and the objects of your great soul's love and tenderest care. I know that your will is that I become at one with you, and partake of your great love that you have bestowed upon me through your mercy and desire, that I become in truth your child through love, and not through the sacrifice and death of any of your creatures. I pray that you will open up my soul to the inflowing of your love, and then will come to me this, your Holy Spirit, to bring into my soul this, your divine love, in great abundance until my soul is transformed into the very essence of yourself, and then will come to me faith. Such faith as will cause me to know that I am truly your child, and one with you, very substance, not in image only. Let me have such faith as will cause me to know that you are my Father, and the bestower of every good and perfect gift, and that only I myself can prevent your love changing me from the mortal into the immortal. Never let me cease to realize that your love is waiting for each and all of us. And when I come to you in faith and earnest aspiration, your love will never be withheld from me. Keep me in the shadow of your love each and every moment and hour of my life, and help me to overcome all the temptations of the flesh and the powers of the evil ones who constantly surround me and endeavor to turn my thoughts away from you to the pleasures and allurements of this world. I thank you for your love and the privilege of receiving it, and I believe that you are my Father, the loving Father who smiles upon me in my weakness and is always ready to help me and to take me into your arms of love. I pray this with all the earnestness and sincere longings in my soul, and trusting in your love, give you all the glory, honor, and love that my finite soul can give. Amen.
Oh, amen. Beautiful words, John. Beautiful. You are just such an amazing beacon of light in this world, and we're grateful to be in this collective together. So wonderful. So you guys, if you received value from this interview, please share this on your social media platforms. John and I are on a mission to help bring this awareness to our collective in greater capacity. There's so much healing that needs to happen, but we are working towards that. There's energy healers and light workers such as myself and John that are here, that are locking arms with you and walking this journey with you as we're healing ourselves, coming back to that space of divine love. So thank you for sharing this video with your family and friends and on your social media platforms, and leave comments below. I'll get back to these comments underneath the video after the fact, after I check out what you're having to say. And we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much, John. Any final closing? It's hard for me to wrap this up because I'm just so inspired by what we've discussed today.
Yes, this simply, your love will always find a way back to happiness.
That's it. In
That's
closing,
it.
thank you so much, John. I love it. All right,
Okay,
you guys,
thank you.
thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back for another video at a later time. And in the meantime, you can follow us on our social media platforms and our websites. All of the notes are in the show notes. So please be sure to follow John and myself, and we will continue to inspire and guide you to the best of our ability. All right, you guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.